On May 19th, 2026, Plex released a blog post detailing a price increase coming to their lifetime plan. On July 21st, 2026, the lifetime license pass will increase from $250 all the way up to $750. That's a 200% price increase. While I do appreciate that they still offer a lifetime license at all and that they aren't jacking up prices for current users, and that they aren't increasing their monthly or yearly subscription fees, this still begs the question for many people. Is Plex still worth using? And that's just from an affordability standpoint. Over the last year or so, users have increasingly reported issues with the software. Some even go so far as to say that Plex is actively making their service worse for its users. Now, I'm going to be transparent in saying that I've never used Plex before. I don't host it myself, and I haven't even used someone else's instance of it. So I'm not going to weigh in on the specific issues that users are having, as I'm not familiar with it. And that's not really the point of this video anyways. The point of this video is to show you how to set up an alternative solution to Plex in light of these recent developments. That solution being the open source and free project Jellyfin. Jellyfin is a free self-hosted media software system that lets you stream your media from your server to your devices. They have what I consider to be a pretty nifty interface and even include some fun features like remote watch together. I'm also not going to dive into the nitty-gritty details of the differences between Plex and Jellyfin. I will leave a few articles linked down below if you're curious about it, but the point of this video is just to help you get started. As with most self-hosted services, Jellyfin can be run in a Docker container. That means that it can be deployed on basically any operating system under the sun, but for today, I'm going to show you how to do it in Unraid. I will not only be running you through how to get it set up, but also to how to enable GPU hardware acceleration for transcoding your videos with better performance. It's also worth noting that because Jellyfin has so many features and settings, this video will not be comprehensive. The goal is to be a simple and easy guide for new users to get started. Though, if you would like to see a guide on some specific features in the future, please let me know in the comments down below. Before getting into the specifics of setting up this container on Unraid, you've got to make sure that you already have some media available. For example, I have a media share where my movies and TV shows are in separate folders. You'll want to make sure that your movies and TV shows are also in separate folders and that you have those paths on hand so you can use them later in the setup. To get things started here, head over to the Apps tab in Unraid and simply search for Jellyfin. Once the results pop up, click on the official container with the monthly spotlight banner. Go ahead and click install. On my end, I need to click actions and then install a second instance, but that is just because I already have an instance of Jellyfin running. Feel free to rename the container up top if you would like. And while you're up here, also make sure that the advanced view toggle in the top right is toggled on. This allows you to make some additional changes. Particularly, it lets you enter commands into the extra parameters field. We utilize this field for our GPU capabilities. If you have an NVIDIA GPU like I do, enter in the following string in that field. I'll also have it in the description below. I'll also include an article with a guide for setting up AMD or Intel GPUs. If you are not planning on using a GPU at all, simply leave this blank. After this, the next major thing that you're going to have to do is set up the Web UI port. This will need to be a port that is not used by any other container or service on your network. To check, simply scroll to the bottom of the configuration page and expand the See Docker Allocations dropdown. With that open, copy the default port, hit Ctrl F, and paste the default port into the search bar. If you see that that port is used by another container, simply increment it by 1 until you find an unused port. Do the same thing for the next 3 ports, but you will likely be able to leave them as their default values. Up next, we have the TV shows and movies path. These are the shares that I mentioned earlier. The path to my TV shows is mount, user, media, media, TV, and the path to my movies is mount, user, media, media, movies. Fill in these fields with the right paths to your shares where your TV shows and movies are. Next, the publish server URL field should be the URL of your Unraid server. In my case, that is 192.168.0.246. So that's what I'm gonna enter here. The XML TV field can remain as its default value. Next, you will want to expand the Show More Settings dropdown, as there's a change you might want to make in here. Make sure specifically that you set the app data path to where you want to keep your app data. This is where things like config files will end up. I tend to have the app data for all of my containers just in the default path, but since I renamed my container up top, I'm also going to rename the folder for the app data to Jellyfin-testing. Once you have everything configured, go ahead and scroll to the bottom of the config page and hit apply. This will pull the Docker image down and create the container for you. It may take a moment, so don't worry if it isn't as fast as it seems in the video. Once the command is finished successfully, go ahead and hit OK and go back to the Docker tab of Unraid. In the Docker tab, go ahead and click on the Jellyfin icon and click on Web UI. This will open up Jellyfin's setup wizard in a new tab. Simply follow through the steps of the wizard to name your server, create a user, and set up your media libraries. Let's add a media library here in this step for both our movies and TV shows. If you only have one or the other, you can do it just for one of those. To start, click on Add Media Library and choose the content type. Why don't we go ahead and do movies first? Click the plus sign on folders and select /data/movies. This is the container path that is linked to the movie share in Unraid that we set up earlier. I would take a moment or two also to browse the rest of the configuration options here, enable what sounds good to you. For the most part, I just leave things as their defaults. When you're ready, hit OK, and then just go ahead and do the same thing, but for TV shows this time. With your library set up, keep going through the setup wizard to set your preferred metadata language, enable remote access if desired, and then finish things up. Once you are kicked back to a sign-in page, go ahead and log in using the credentials that you just set up for that new user. If everything was configured properly, you should now start seeing your movies and TV shows populated here for streaming. Note that the larger your media library is, the longer it takes Jellyfin to do a full library scan and for all of your content to appear. The last step to do here is set up hardware acceleration for transcoding. To do this, click the hamburger stack in the top left and go to the administration dashboard. Then go to playback and transcoding. The first option here in this window is to enable hardware acceleration. They conveniently link to documentation with more details about how hardware acceleration works, and I would recommend that you at least skim through it so you know a little bit of what's going on. Simply set hardware acceleration to whatever your GPU supports. I'm going to set it to NVidia NVENC because I have an NVIDIA GPU. Select the codecs you want the acceleration to apply to. If your GPU supports AV1, then I highly recommend using AV1 encoding as it's very quick and efficient. If you're feeling particularly adventurous, then I'd skim through the rest of the settings on this page and read up on what you can adjust and make the changes that you would like. I won't be going through the specifics of many of these settings as they tend to be quite different and unique from system to system. Once you're ready though, go ahead and make sure you go all the way to the bottom of this page and make sure that you hit the save button. If you run into any problems while streaming hardware accelerated content, the first troubleshooting step I would take is to make sure that your GPU drivers are up to date. And congrats, you successfully set up Jellyfin for media streaming with hardware acceleration through your GPU. A few caveats here though. With how I configured things throughout this video, Jellyfin is unable to stream over the internet. Instead, it will only be available to stream over your local network. There are ways to stream over the internet, but they tend to require a little bit more configuration and depending on your setup, where you live, what kind of network you have, some unique workarounds. I would also spend some time looking through the rest of the admin settings and see what else you might like to tweak. Thankfully, Jellyfin has pretty good explanations of what all of these settings do. There is a lot to Jellyfin, and as I mentioned earlier, this video guide is just a simple setup, but if you would like something more complicated in the future, let me know in the description down below. This brings us to the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and if you're curious or need some help setting up some other services in your Unraid server, consider maybe checking out my video where I went through a very similar style to this, but for setting up image in a simple way. After that, you might also consider a similar guide I did to set up Pi-hole to block some ads and tracking domains on your network. Please also consider giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel for more content in the future. Thank you for watching, happy streaming, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.